All right, let's start round two of this. Again, this is my GM tips from RicMTheGM on creating a great campaign from the ground up. Now, again, I did this before. Sadly, things did not turn out how I had planned them audio-wise, and for that I apologize to those of you that tried to listen and got nothing out of it. So what I wanted to do today, and again, I've had a lot of fun GMing lately, and I've had a lot of fun with just the ideas that come around it. And I've added a lot to my library, and for those that are 5e users, you'll really love this because, again, I got the 5e background up, as you'll see in my Fantasy Grounds, and I've also got 5e up on the DM Guide Wise, so you will see me bring this into effect today, as well as another popular book, this one. So what I wanted to talk about today, and one of the most difficult things I think for anyone, whether you're a starting DM or GM or whether you are a veteran, a seasoned veteran, when it comes to campaign creation from the ground up, that is a topic that often really vexes a lot of DMs and GMs, either in the short run or in the long run. I think the reason why is how we go about designing a campaign and I'm going to use GM, okay? I understand I'm including DM, Dungeon Master, under that. I think it's just easier than me trying to throw both in there all the time. When as a GM you're trying to design a campaign from the ground up, there are things that I really and truly believe are important. The first thing I think is most important is the genre. What genre are your players, now hear what I'm saying here, your players interested in? Not necessarily has to be always something we're interested in as a DM or a GM or, in what we come up with. A lot of people assume fantasy, or they'll assume sci-fi, or they'll assume horror, or they'll assume superheroes, or they'll assume some other sort of genre, as this is what my group is interested in. I think as a GM, you should sit down with your players long before you ever design anything for play and ask them what interests them genre-wise. And what are some of the genres we can look at? Well, there's horror. There's modern spy thrillers. There is space campaigns, both modern and ancient. There's steampunk. There is dystopian, a dystopian future, or a holocaustic future. Or there are paths, and there can be Holocaust paths and dystopian paths as well. There can be fantasy. There can be star fantasy. And so there are a lot of different genres. And if I've missed one, please forgive me. Superhero. There's superhero. There are so many genres. You can do anime if you like anime. Yes, you can do anime art, tabletop RPGs. So there are a lot of different genres you can explore. Wild West, or the Weird West, as Savage Worlds calls it. There are ones where there are relic hunters or pirate ships and shipborne type of adventures. World War II, so you could go into an era or a war. There are a lot of genres, and the question is, what genre is your player base interested in as a GM? So ask that question. Take the time, take notes, see what really intrigues them. And where they'd like to go and what they'd like to explore. Because I truly believe if you will do this, it will enhance the campaign you design from the ground up. Now, there comes the next thing. Do you design it from the ground up or do you modify it? Well, that's up to your experience. I don't recommend to any new DM or GM designing it from the ground up. I think it's a lot of work. You're asking a lot when you're just learning the system and the rules. Or the storytelling path of it, because not everyone has a lot of rules intensive. If you get into ones like Cypher System and Monty Cook do more into the storytelling aspect of things, whereas GURPS and D&D and Pathfinder are more rules intensive, and Starfinder. There are ones in between. So Open Legend RPG is a perfect one of in between, where it's an agnostic type of set of rules that can be used for any type of genre. So you want to sit down and really decide, what do you want to play? Do you want to do a D20 based thing? Do you want to do more storytelling? And do you want to take an existing module or design path or world that they've created and then alter it to what you want to play? Or do you want to design a sandbox from the ground up? Those are things you got to keep in mind when you go into this. Now, as you've seen, I've brought up several books, and these are part of my library, as well as others. I've got Vampire the Requiem. Yeah, I got Vampire the Requiem. I've got Shadowrun. I have Pure Steam. I have Numenera. And several other systems outside of these genres, as well as Open Legend RPG, the DM's Guide, and all the Dungeon Master stuff and player stuff for D&D, and Pathfinder, as well as Starfinder. So I have a library that's fairly complete. I do suggest, as time goes on, and the more you DM and GM, please build your library. Please build it, because you may not use all those RPGs, but the ideas from them, you may. And some of the design work and things that are done in them, you may choose to incorporate. I've got Call of Cthulhu 6, Rev 6. So I have certain things that I brought into what I wanted to have in order to utilize those in either running that system or in the existing systems I'm in and like running, like Pathfinder and D&D. Now, and I said this in the last video, and I'm sorry you didn't get to hear that. I think I did a better job, but I hope I do a passable job on this one. To those brave enough to take on the task, the role of DMing/GMing, I want to say thank you for being the heroes you are. Now, again, don't take this wrong. I'm not trying to compare you to heroes every day like firefighters and our armed forces. But what I am saying is, you took on the role of creating a campaign that is going to change the life of your players. You don't think so, but you will, in a good way. Thank you for all the hard work you're going to put in, for the blood, sweat, and tears, for the moments of fear and the moments of doubt, and for the moments of confidence and sheer elation. You will have all these. And thank you so much for having the courage to step out and do this. It is a courageous thing. Don't ever think it isn't. You are stepping into the limelight as the referee, the background storyteller, and the color commentator, and the voices of the NPCs that you're going to run to make this world a special place, and this campaign a special place for your players. Thank you so much. Now, going in, early on, I'm going to tell you this, so if you want to stop this now, this is going to be about a 40-minute video or more. The reason you can't keep it short when it comes to talking about campaign creation. Now, keep in mind, those of you watching this, if you like what you see, or even if you don't, get in touch with me. I would love to have a GM's roundtable where 5 or 6 of us go on to Discord, bring up our cameras, and discuss this topic even in greater depth. I don't think there's enough of it. I really don't. I think there is on some aspects of it, but when it comes to the total creation of a campaign, I don't think there's enough material. I really don't. There is on running a game, there is on being a great DM or GM, there is on understanding systems, but I don't think there's enough in just general GMing. So, that said, let's dive into the topic. Now, I'm going to draw very heavily from these two and the Open Legend book. Those are really my core designing manuals. And why is this important? Well, each of them has aspects that I love as a GM and I think are important. One I shared earlier, and you saw me put this kind of up. I love how player interactions are taken up by the GM's Guide in Pathfinder. Now, this is a $9.99 PDF and a $19 pocket-sized book. You don't have to buy the $50 one. Get the pocket-sized version, okay? Why is it important? Because it discusses player interactions. Player interactions are such a key thing when it comes to GMing a campaign. We're not going to go into these a lot today, but know that pages 70 to pages 77 in this book go through that and really spend time discussing. It also goes on non-player characters. I love the chapter on non-player characters. It is such a critical thing when running non-player characters to understand how to design them, how to play them, how to utilize voices. It also talks about some into the game design. And that's in the earlier chapters around chapter 2. It goes into things. And it has a neat section on words. So, again, I know I'm doing this, but after this, I'm going to look away from the GM's guide and do something you guys are going to love. I'm going to spend a bunch of time in the DM's guide. But it has things on plots. It has things on words that you should know. And those are pages 52 to 55. And these are words that they recommend you as a GM and a DM get to know. All critical things. All important. What I suggest is this. When you have books like this, and this is outside of the campaign creation, take a morning or an afternoon when you've got some time, go at lunch, read a chapter. Just a chapter. If you have a hard time reading, try to find things on audiobook. See if you can't get an audiobook version of this. I bet someone has already created that you can sit down and they'll have it read to you. Because I know some people go through the challenges of dyslexia and other types of things with focusing on words and written word that makes it challenging. Utilize the things available to you. Don't feel bad about that. Look, part of learning this is finding the way you like to learn on these systems. And that's half the battle, I think. On here, I love, they've got a chapter on it. I believe it's page in the 90s that they talk about running the game. And they go through running the game, and they talk about creating adventures, what it's like, the sequential adventure, the sandbox. It goes into that. Creating a campaign. It gives you examples of doing that. Utilize this because this is not as rules intensive. This is more storytelling intensive. Great book for it. And so if you're more into the storybook aspect, utilize that. Now, for my favorite book we're going to open up today. I have been reading the 5e DM's Guide. Yes. Thank you to all the rewriters and writers of this from Wizards of the Coast. I want to give a couple shout-outs. Mike Merles, Jeremy Crawford, Christopher Perkins, James Wyatt, Robert Schwab, Rodney Thompson, and Peter Lee, along with Scott Fitzgerald on editing, Michelle Carter, Chris Sims, Jennifer Clark Wilkes, and then Greg Bilsland. Thank you so much for the overhaul you have done on the DM's Guide. I now find this book invaluable, no matter your system. Buy the 5e's DM's Guide. Spend the $50. Why? Because the first few chapters are the most important of any of those you're ever going to read. And it talks about the topic we're going to go over, which is campaign creation. What is important for that? All right. So creating a campaign. And it goes through a lot of things. It gives you a lot of tips. Start small, create a home base, create a local region. We're going to hit these, but I'm going to hit these in an order. The first thing that I think is most important is the defining campaign event. Determine that. That brings this world, this group, this party, this group of people together. Now, you can decide this on your own. However, take into account what you learned when you ask your players what genre do you want to play and what kind of characters and why. Part of you helping your party to design themselves to have the most fun out of any session is having a campaign event in mind that's going to take place that will bring this group of players together. People don't come together on random. They don't. Look at real life. They don't. We come together with a purpose in mind. We come together with an event that brings us together, whether it is a con, whether it is a meeting place, whether it is wanting to play a certain type of character or a certain type of hero or anti-hero, or a villain, we need to sit down and decide from that the major event that profoundly impacted this world's creation. Whether you're using an existing written campaign like Galarian, Eberron, Faerun, Greyhawk, Ghostwalk, any of these type of campaigns, Numeria, what is it? I had the other one Monty Cook did, The Invisible Sun, Call of Cthulhu. We came together into this world for a reason, an event. What are some events that we can look at? And these are on pages 27 on, if you haven't read them. I read them and reread these. I love them. I just read them recently, and I went, where were you hiding all my life? This right here, and I know you can hear me hitting the book, it is so just informational packed and idea packed that you should never run out of ideas. That is a big thing GMs and DMs run into. I'm burned out. I've run out of ideas. No, you haven't. If you utilize this kind of formula right here, no, you haven't. Okay? So, what are some things? Look at a world-shaking event that brings your players together. What are these? And I'm going to go through the table to go through these, and I'm going to discuss a little on each. Rise of a leader or an era. This could be a rise of a hero, a rise of a dictator, a rise of a government that is dystopian. Any type of rise like that will impact the world that it's set in, and the country and the city. You can start as small of a scale as a city rise. Maybe it's a mayor, maybe it's a council, and go as large as a world leader or a federation leader that comes to power and has a huge impact upon things. I watched Carnival Row. Perfect example. Carnival Row, great series if you haven't seen it on Amazon Prime. Now, keep in mind, very adult, very X-rated at times, sometimes with the stuff. Not done in tastefully or poor taste. Just realize it's got a lot of stuff. So if it's going to mess with your sensibilities, maybe not one to watch. But there is a rise among the antagonists that causes the fall of the Pixies' land and some other areas that these creatures are from, the Fae. And it literally impacts the world as a whole. Okay? So, a rise of a leader, a fall of a leader. So say you have a great leader, J.F. Kennedy, perfect example. You may not have loved him, you may have whatever. He was assassinated. A fall of a leader. It impacted our country and our era in just profound ways. And so, some good, some bad. But it brings people together on that event of that. Cataclysmic disaster, 2012. Remember the movie? The End of the World, the Mayan calendar. Could be an eruption like Pompeii. Or it could be an earthquake that drops, say, part of California. Sorry, Californians and people on the West Coast, or people on the East Coast. But maybe it's a seismic event that drops them off into the ocean. It happened in the Weird West with on Savage Worlds with Deadlands. That's exactly what happened. Things opened up. Weird things happened. There was a TV show that I watched. Oh God, what was it? Death Race. Yeah, it was not Death Race, but it was another one of the race ones on Sci-Fi that was recent. And what happened is they had an opening of these rifts that caused a change in everything. It introduced a compound or a weird thing that caused people to go weird and nutty. And so there was that. Maybe an assault or an invasion. So something came into that country. Great example out of Faerun. The invasion of Coromir. The invasion of Neverwinter. These were events that caused people to come together to try to prevent the fall of these great areas and the fall of a great deal. I'm not going to bring up World War II because it is so contested right now, and forgive me, the term Nazi is so misused, I don't even want to touch it. Okay? It kind of disgusts me because that was a profound time, and today's day and age is nothing like it. Okay? And I get it. People have got their opinions. I'm just saying, profound events like that shatter the world and reform it, is what they do. So an invasion can do that. They have an invasion that happens, the Iron Fang invasion in Pathfinder. It's its own path. And it changes 3 countries that are involved with the invasion. Pretty profound stuff. Great campaign to run, by the way. So there's that. A rebellion, a revolution, or an overthrow. And I used on the last video, and I'm sorry, again, I'm rehashing it, but you guys didn't get to hear the sound. There's a country in the inner sea called Gault, and Gault has gone through several bloody revolutions and continues to. The Grey Gardeners are the ones like the French Revolution that come up and behead the nobles, kind of like that. And it's a country of turmoil. And it's a great hook because it's constantly revolutioning. So you never know what you're going to get and who's going to rise. So a revolution can cause a party to come together in a profound way. An overthrow. Somebody goes marching in. Red Dawn. Perfect example out of those movies. You notice I'm hitting different genres because I know every one of you plays different genres. And so I'm trying to make this the most impactful no matter the system and give you ideas every direction. So I said this is so impact rich. As I go through these, one pointer I'll throw in there, don't forget literature. Don't forget shows and movies and series because like The Witcher and some of the others, those add and enhance these type of ideas and gives you more. It gives you so much in your playbook to run with. Extinction or depletion. What happens if a resource goes away? And I forgot to say this one in the last one. I missed it, but you're getting it now. What happens when iron's depleted? Or coal's depleted? Or water's depleted? Or maybe livestock. You've eaten all the livestock and they're gone. Or a disease comes along and kills them off and you have no meat. Or something comes along and kills the plant life, like on Dead Suns. And that's a D&D campaign. If you haven't done Dead Suns, please do. It is our Dark Suns, not Dead Suns. Yeah, Dead Suns is another one. Dark Suns. Sorry, I've played a lot of and read a lot of stuff. Dark Suns is off that. What happens when the resources are limited and depleted and you have to go back to ground zero? Cool stuff. Darwin's Age, or the Darwin RPG system goes off those kind of things with a catastrophic event, a plague. So, a new organization rises, a thieves guild like the Fire Knives, a assassins guild like the Red Mantis Assassins, the Chelish Empire with the Aspis Consortium. There are all kinds of groups that can rise and cause things. So, talking about a revolution, I'm going to put 2 concepts together for a campaign thing. The one I'm running now, which is a great campaign, by the way, if you haven't run it, it's the Ruins of Aslan. It is based in the world of the Inner Sea. Andorran's the country that is wanting to colonize a new island. And so the Andorians had a revolution that turned them into a republic, a functioning republic. They're an egalitarian society. What a wonderful thing in an RPG system, an egalitarian society. But it has its own problems. It has those trying to just bring it down from the inside. And so they go out and colonize this colony and try to bring their ideals and their freedoms to it. But what happens if they don't have the resources to get started like they need to? What if they're dependent upon an island? What if some other force comes in, an organization, and tries to take control? See, there's so much you can do for a campaign event that would bring this idea to a real unifier. That's the cool thing with this. This is, again, off the World Shaking Event matrix on page 27 of the DM's guide if you want to follow along. Discovery, expansion, invention. What if some new invention, i.e. steam power, starts changing things, i.e. pure steam, i.e. airship pirates RPG? What happens? Open Legend RPG, where they have steam power as well as magic. What happens when that's introduced in? Eberron, another one where, you have steam power introduced with magic. How does it change things? How does it pull the party in? What if there's a doomsday invention that comes up that can end the world, and it draws the party to have to stop it? Prediction, omen, and prophecy. Oh, I love these. Those, to me, are some of the funnest topics. A prediction about the world, and you have to stop it. Or maybe you want it to come, and you go and do it, but things don't go as planned, and the prophecy shifts. So now, and this is going to go into the concept before I end this out. In a campaign, there is the campaign event, there's the midstream event, and then there's the final event. I truly believe you need 3 events in any campaign that's a long-term, even a short-term campaign, to enhance the buy-in from the players. I truly believe that. I think if you go with one event and leave it there, it's going to get stale quick. But if the events are evolving, now you kind of don't do too many, because you don't want to overdo it. But you want to kind of throw a monkey wrench now and then into things that brings up the best in the party, or the worst. Myth and legend. Say you're going after things like Jason and the Argonauts, or Odysseus. You go on that voyage to save the woman you love and free her, to stop the enemy, and then all of a sudden you try to go. Oh, it wasn't the woman you love, but it was one of the guys who loved her. You're trying to rescue her for the husband, and all of a sudden you get lost. Second event. And then you come home dealing with all the problems that have occurred. Third event. See how Odysseus in the Odyssey kind of embodies what I'm talking about? There are some great ideas with myth and legend, and you can do a lot with it. Pathfinder's even put in mythic tiers, which you could probably move over to D&D. There's a mythic thing going on there, I believe, with legendary games, where they're trying to do that. It's really cool having a legendary campaign or a mythic campaign, because you can pick the different things that cause them to advance mythically. Just like Hercules had many different quests, or say a female Hercules, maybe you call her Epiphanes or whatever, comes up and she has to achieve her demigodhood through something. Or it could be a CIS, Perphonophles. You put it to the genres that meet your players' needs. You don't have to make this classic. You can have fun with this. And so, your core idea, that's where you start. After your core idea, it comes to the next part here on page 25 of the DM's Guide, where it talks about create a home base. Start small. What you're trying to do is you're trying to design initially where the players are from, where they can go to when they need a break or breather. Maybe you put in a few shops near them that are key shops of importance. It could be a tavern, it could be a armory, or it could be the local captain of the guard or the jail, or it could be the store, the general store, as well as a smithy where they can get things done, or a magic shop where they can get things identified, or an adventuring society or group that they belong to. Or it could be a small space station, or it could be a small colony on a world like the Outer Worlds, where they go back to that they can call home. It could be a city or a vault like in Fallout 4 or New Vegas, where they go back to that is their core place where they can get help and they have made friends and they can get information and trade things. This is the small things you flesh out. You don't have to do a whole country right yet. You don't have to do a whole world. Because here's what's going to happen. Those players are going to go out and venture out. Have some ideas of the surrounding countryside. Have some ideas of what country they're in, or what world they're on, or what space station they're on. So maybe they just do the first ring of a space station, but there's 5 more rings and a bigger thing. And there's also transportation to worlds like Eox and Nephra and Philalites, or whatever you want to name them. And you kind of flesh those ideas out on a piece of paper near you, so that if it does go there, then you can begin the development of that. You don't have to write up your campaign. And please, I'm asking you, and some of you are going to get a little hot hearing this part of it, okay? I'm not trying to insult you. You go so hard to create a world, and I've done what you're doing, okay? I've done it. I've created a whole world, countries, rulers, everything, and guess what? It went to crap because the players didn't care. They didn't focus on it. They didn't go to this country. They didn't go to that country. They didn't go to these 5 other countries. So now what? All that work and time wasted. Wait until they branch out and then begin fleshing it out. Flesh out the government, flesh out the other things, but do it little by little and wrap it around your characters' backstories. The more you can tie into their backstories, their goals, their ambitions, their sensibilities, their morality, their logos, the more fun that world becomes, that you help them to write your world. That's how Kobold Press came up with their wonderful system of the Southlands and all the other ones that are in there, all their other parts of their world that is kind of Norse / Egyptian / they did this because their players explored and branched out. Wolfgang Bauer was smart, and then he could market it later on because he'd already had it player tested. He'd already had buy-in. The people liked it. Then he had more people tested, and he's evolved it more. That's how you begin to grow it. But you're going to take little chunks. Remember, you're not here to have to design 50 million things. Design a core area and then radiate out. Okay? Create a local region. That goes into that idea and thing. And then craft a starting adventure. So you do these things, and all of a sudden, you've given it some definition. And the campaign begins to take on a life itself. For instance, my players, when they went to this colony, I included all orientation of NPCs. I have 2 guys together, I have 2 women together, I have 3 people in one family together. So Pan, the gay side, the trans side, I have it all covered. One of the players and their character found a love in a bisexual half-elf. Again, we don't go into the sex aspects of it. You don't have to, okay? In my mind as a GM, that goes way too far. The love, the romance, that's cool. It ties them in and invests them into those NPCs. They've lost 2 NPCs already, Gale and Yosef, and it has broken their hearts. I didn't ask it to break their hearts, but it did. They miss them. And they built a temple of Pharasma with a graveyard for them to remember those and the other fallen in the village. That is such an investment. And that tells you you're reaching your players. They're writing their own story. Some of the stuff I did, and I'll show you, and this is always good to have a little sketchbook like this. Again, you don't have to be perfect at your sketches, but you can sketch some islands for them to explore. You can put down concepts of what's going on in organizations. You can also do like an inn or a home for them on that island. That's what I've done. And it excites them. They're like, wow, I didn't expect this. And now they're that much more invested. This is where you as the DM and GM add in those little parts that make it so profound and so impactful. Keep that in mind. Now, your middle event. You don't have to make it as big as your campaign event. You don't have to make it earth-shattering. The thing's always asked, what happens if the hero or the villain they're trying to defeat gets defeated early? Where's the story then? Well, you got to have other threads that tie into it and other things. Maybe in another event comes along, they're going, how we won. Oh no. So in this case, they got the colony going. They started getting things. They started to try to find where the lost colonists. Oh no. There's an aboleth. What the heck? Where was this aboleth in the beginning? We kind of knew that the Aslanti were studying these things. What the heck? See, that little event that came in there, plus some other followers of that aboleth, has now taken the party and spun my party round. But it's got them that much more invested. And now they're trying to go branch out and see what else is going on. Is there something else they're missing? Is there someone greater above the aboleth that's running things? What the heck is going on? What else is going to affect the colony? They even developed a militia force. They had the guards that were sent by Andran, but now they've turned them into effective militia forces. One against undead, one against every other kind of critter that they're trying to deal with. So now they're preparing for worst case. I love that. That's investment. That's player time they spend in there doing that. Those are the kind of things you build depending on how you do your story and you do your events. Then the defining end event, or I call it the top of the mountain event. They need that top of the mountain to where they see over and they start to see the valleys, the lush valleys down below again. But they have to get through that top of the mountain event to get to those lush valleys. You can do those type of events. So maybe, great example, Dune, the series with Dune. The Atreides family falls due to a rival family in the spice trade. They then have the children trying to find their way with their mother. And then the rise of the Atreides to where they bring order to that whole universe. Beautiful thing. Another one, Battlefield Earth with L. Ron Hubbard. The guy starts out, he's just trying to survive and not be killed by the aliens. But then as time goes on, he begins to understand the backstory of his world and tries to rise it from the ashes, and then in the end send something to the home world of the aliens to then end the conflict once and for all so that the world can survive beyond. See, these are the neat things you can introduce into a story. And you can take a set adventure like I did and throw in some monkey wrenches, and I have. I've added extra adventure, places they can go, places they can explore, places they can find resources. It is up to you then to kind of flesh it out once they've got going. And you want to do that. Again, I love the mechanics. The mechanics are important. And again, I'll say this to any DMGM. Find the mechanics of your game. Study them. Know them. Know what a standard turn, round, whatever is. And how it works and what you have to do. So that when conflict arises, you can resolve it. For exploration, find those things. Reward them. I reward my party. You don't have to do it with experience. You can do it with items or knowledge or whatever comes to find. But there are little perks along the way that make their characters that much more interesting as time goes on. So you want to include those in your campaign as well. And then ask them what they think so far. There's nothing wrong with that. If you see that you're striking out, then you can always revamp things from there by picking a new event. And maybe that storyline dies off and resolves itself while you focus to another event. That's okay to do. It really is. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is jogging some things in your mind as you design the campaign. So, have a campaign event. Well, no, let's start before that. Ask your players what type of genre they want to play. Then design a campaign event that brings them together. From there, start small. Start designing their home base, their local areas, a few places they'll visit, a couple NPCs they'll talk to. Then have ready written down concepts for the bigger area. As they explore out, flesh it out more. Again, wrap it around their backstory. That is so important that you do that and take the time to do that. Then from there, you come up with two more events. The middle event or the halfway through the road event, and then the epic spire event, the top of the mountain event. that will wrap things down and bring that campaign to an end. Don't be afraid. As they're writing it, again, the players are writing this story, not you. That's the thing you got to remember as a GM and DM. Please check your ego at the door. This is not about your campaign. It is about their or all of our campaign. That's what it is. Okay? It's okay to run NPCs to go along with them if they're okay with that. That gives you a little sense of playing in your own world and having a little fun with them, but not giving too much away. And you can do things in a way that wrap things down, maybe take it to another epic or level for them. You can use mythical things in there and build them to a mythic level. Let them be a part of a history of that world and re-include them in the next campaign. So when they design new characters, let those other characters come back on guest appearances and to help things out and to do some tremendous things. That's always fun. I've got some ideas on mine I'm not going to share because my players could watch this. But believe me, I've got some fun going on. So, all that said, I hope this time hasn't been a waste. Please get these books. Please. And add to your library. Include fictional books. Include DVDs of different shows with different genres. The Sword of Shannara series that they put on TV. The superhero series is like Legends of Tomorrow and some of the others. Have those there to spark ideas in you. Because you're going to need those in your library. Those are the things, along with those lists out of the DM's Guide, that will really spark that for you. And have fun. At the end of the day, have fun. Thank you so much to those of you that follow my videos. Thank you for those who comment and take the time to watch them. I'm sorry to those who I had the technical difficulties. This one hopefully will go better and you'll enjoy it. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to repost it. And hopefully more GM tips to come. And again, reminder, if you want to do a roundtable, let me know. I'm more than happy to do a roundtable with you. All right? Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon.